Now, my next guest is from Maryland, graduated from Garden City, New York High School, earned a BS degree from the U.S. Military Academy, has a master's in international relations from George Washington University, graduated from Armed Forces Staff College and from the National War College, was a forward air controller and fighter pilot during the Vietnam War, flew 407 combat missions during his 4 tours of duty. In addition to his Vietnam service, he served overseas in NATO, Pacific Air Forces as commander of the 11th Air Force in Alaska. Retired in 1994 as an Air Force Lieutenant General who served in top military positions under the Secretary of Defense and the Vice President of the United States. He has more decorations and ribbons than a Macy's Day Christmas tree. Some of them are, and this is not the entire list, Distinguished Service Medal, Defense Superior Service Medal, Legion of Merit, Distinguished Flying Cross, Bronze Star Medal, Meritorious Service Medal, Air Force Commendation Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Vietnam Service Medal, Republic of Vietnam Gallantry Cross Unit Citation, Republic of Vietnam Campaign Medal, also awarded the Third Order of the Rising Sun by the Japanese government for his outstanding service in enhancing relations between our country and Japan. Also inducted into the U.S. Air Force Order of the Sword in July 1980. This award recognizes both military and civilian individuals for their significant contributions. Please welcome to the program Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney. General, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Larry. I'm absolutely delighted and honored to be part of your show.
Well, General, the reason I took so much time in giving you the introduction is because I want people to understand exactly who you are and what you've done, because I think that's very important in determining the credibility of what you're about ready to tell us. Your claim is that the 2020 election was essentially stolen by Democrats using computer programs called Hammer and Scorecard that were developed by the National Service Agency and the CIA, and that these programs were used to intercept votes and flip those votes from Biden to Trump. Is that your assertion?
That's correct.
Wow.
It's powerful.
It is powerful.
It's the first. It's the real classic demonstration, Larry, of using cyber warfare in a democratic electoral process. It had been used by Obama and Biden in 2012 to swing Florida, but that was just one state. It was tried in the 2016 with Hillary, and that's why they were all surprised and shocked, but I can't tell you the details, but let's say it was thwarted. This time, it was not thwarted. I did not find out about it till a week ago this Sunday, and went on Steve Bannon's show on Monday with Sidney Powell as a co-host and discussed it and said what's going to happen in the election tomorrow, that being 3 November, Tuesday. And lo and behold, it happened.
General, before you go on, the entire interview that you did with Steve Bannon, we put it up on my website, LarryElder.com, as well as an article from the Daily Beast. I'm sure you've seen it, completely saying that everything that you said and the sources that you relied on are wrong and that you're pushing a conspiracy theory. But before you respond to that, I want to say that you probably are aware that 78% of Democrats, according to a Gallup poll, believe not only that the Russians interfered, General, with the election in 2016, but that the Russians literally changed vote tallies. Even though a Senate committee looked at it and found no evidence that had happened, Jay Johnson, the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Homeland Security under Obama, testified there's no evidence that the Russians changed vote tallies. Yet 78%, General, of Democrats believe that the Russians changed vote tallies. You're telling us that the Biden campaign changed vote tallies.
Yes, I am.
Wow. Tell us.
Let's take a sniff test.
Okay.
Why don't we say, let's see, we all know what Biden did to campaign. He had probably the largest group he ever had, may have been 20 people with 20 cars blowing horns. He stayed in the basement most of the time. He never gave a press conference that was an hour long and that took tough questions. And all those things he did, and then he wins with a larger voted number than Barack Obama. That doesn't pass the sniff test, does it?
Tell us about these programs. Hammer Scorecard. You said they were used by the Obama administration and used again in 2016 unsuccessfully.
Yes.
Okay.
2 weeks after President Obama took over on the 3rd of February, 2000, whatever it was.
2009.
9. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He moved Hammer, which was a CIA program that was used for anti-terrorism, going after radical Islamists. And we call it a SIGINT, Larry, in the vernacular, a signals intelligence program. He moved that over to a secret SCIF, self-compartmented intelligence facility, in which he then started listening to U.S. citizens. And he did this, and we had a whistleblower because, as you know, the CIA is not allowed to listen to U.S. citizens. You need a court order, and it's got to be the FBI. NSA listens to them abroad. We understand that. And so we had a whistleblower by the name of Dennis Montgomery, and you're talking about the Daily Beast, which they resurrected some very old accusations against Dennis, which means, and then put some in about me, and then put some in about the Attorney General Ball. Now, when you start getting this kind of publicity by the Daily Beast and others, and it'll get to the New York Times and the Washington Post, it means you're on to something, Larry. It means they have started a counter program against you to discredit you.
Okay, General, let's hold it right here for now. We're going to take a break. We come back. I want you to explain exactly what these computer programs are. You claim that the Biden administration used it in 2009 in January. The Obama administration, and the Obama administration used it again in 2012, and that the Biden administration used these programs this year in order to influence, in order to change votes from Donald Trump to Joe Biden. And we come back, Lieutenant General Tom McInerney will explain exactly how this happened. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. My guest claims that the 2020 election was stolen by Democrats using computer programs called Hammer and Scorecard, developed by and for the National Security Agency and the CIA. And my guest argues that it was used to intercept the vote and flip votes to Biden from Trump. General Tom McInerney is my guest. General, before we go on, and before you lay out exactly what you think happened in 2020, a number of people, of course, are going to have questions. What's your party affiliation?
I'm a Republican.
Mm-hmm. And you served under both Republican and Democratic administrations?
Absolutely. In active duty as the number 3 man in the Air Staff, I served under the Bush administration and then the Clinton. Prior to that, that was at a 3-star level, and that's when I was working directly for the Vice President on his reinventing government, as well as the number 3 man in the Air Force. So, and prior to that, and the change of previous administrations, Larry, it goes back so long ago, I can't remember what it was, but I remember when it changed. And nothing changed in the bureaucracy. I point that out. Mm-hmm. Now that's different. The swamp does very different things than I'm used to.
You have retained your top secret clearance?
Yes.
And when the head of U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency calls your claim, quote, nonsense, close quote, your reaction is what?
Well, does he listen to what the facts are? Mm-hmm. Now, look, this is a very restricted program, and it's a SAP program, which is Special Access Program, and not many people know about it. I was never briefed on it until I was told in 2017 in March by Admiral Ace Lyons, who is no longer with us, but told me about the program, and that's telling me that they were surveilling the Trump administration, and they'd done it before, and so that's the first I heard of. hammer. And so that was used, and then I kind of lost track of it until last Sunday, and someone told me that they were going to use it on this election. And they had a new application. For our listeners, let's assume that they think that Hammer is like your iPhone. And on it, you have apps like on your iPhone. Well, Scorecard is an application that works votes and keeps them within 3%, and you shift from one person to the other. So they put this at what they call the transfer points. When the votes come in state elections from the voting polls, and they go up to the Secretary of State, and they have different computer setups, but they call them transfer points for state elections. That's the first time the Internet becomes involved with them. Except I'm now finding out that some polling booths are hooked up to the Internet in Texas and some other places. But in any case, in general, they aren't. So it's difficult to get to them until they get to the transfer points. That's where, like on Michigan, at 0400 in the morning, on the 4th of November, 138,000 votes showed up for Joe Biden. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, and then two other states got, I think, Wisconsin, and maybe Pennsylvania got a slug at that exact same time. Now, what needs to be done, Larry, is to look at the forensics of the number of votes that President Trump had and that Biden had manually, and then they went to the transfer points, and then look at the votes that came out of the transfer points. You can see on some television programs, people have shown how in front of your eyes, within a split second, the votes change between Trump and Biden. But so we're starting to get in that analytics, and people are starting to look at it. They're starting to understand it.
Okay, General, let's leave it right there for now. We're going to take another break. My guest is General Tom McInerney. You hear his assertion that a computer program was used by the Biden camp to change votes from Trump to Biden. My question is, the Obama-Biden team has not been in the White House in 4 years. So who gave the authority? How did an out-of-power Biden campaign somehow get people to engage in this kind of voter fraud? We'll talk to General Tom McInerney about all of that in just a second. My guest is retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney, who served in top military positions under the Secretary of Defense and the Vice President of the United States. General, does the Trump administration know about these programs, and why hasn't the Trump administration said something about them?
That's a very good question. I don't know. I know when I went on Steve Bannon on Monday that was hoping to warn them. I'm not connected with the administration at all, and for certain reasons, I haven't gotten into the Pentagon lately, and so I don't know if they are aware of them. I think they're aware of them because it's a SAP, Special Access Program. It's very restricted. And so I suspect there are very few people that are fully knowledgeable of this program.
And General, that means there are very few people that could do this. So can you name names? Can you tell us who did this?
Well, I don't know who did it, and because they had to take this program out of government control when they left. You asked a good question as we were closing out the last segment, Larry. And someone did that. Now, I don't know how they did it, but the CIA has very clever ways of doing things, and they could have said they retired or whatever. But the Democratic Party controls it. I was told on Monday night that the DNC, for instance, was operating the system to a degree. And there are other things. But specifically, it wasn't a widely known program. Most of these signals intelligence programs are not. They're SAP, Special Access Programs. But the easy thing to do, look, I can be criticized and call me a tin hat or whatever you want, but as long as we examine the data, look at the data, we have people that are working with us who alerted us to it, that watch them do this. And so that's why I feel very confident. I communicate with those people, and they were telling me as it was going on what was happening, etc. So I feel once the U.S. government gets in on it, and President Trump should really get involved with this. Because he understands this stuff better than most. The bureaucracy will be reading the Daily Beast and saying, "Well, Dennis, hasn't got it, et cetera, et cetera." That's fine if he doesn't have it, but let's see what he's got. Let's see the numbers that come out once you do what I just said. Do an audit of the numbers for Biden, the numbers for President Trump that go to each Secretary of State, and then that are forwarded from there. That's a fairly easy thing to do, and there are other mechanical things that can be, or technical things that can be done. But look, you're hearing a lot, Larry, of voter fraud. You hear about the mail-in ballots. You don't hear about the absentee ballots because the absentee ballots have a chain of control. You know who you mailed it to. You know the name that's coming back on it. Someone has co-signed it, etc. So you have control there. And the mail-in ballots, all the Democrat governors wanted that. And we're finding large numbers of those batch ones that are not valid. Timestamps in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, etc. So, and then there are, of course, the dead ones. I just saw in an article 21,000 dead people voted in Pennsylvania. And then you have the voting machine that had 5,500 people in Michigan that voted for Trump, but it reflected Biden. That was a voting machine. And then you have the post office has a bunch of them that's stuffed, and they find them. Now, you have all these different degrees of voter fraud, but the real crown jewel, the keystone, is the cyber warfare. That's where the numbers will be big. Very few people even see or know what's going on there. We're talking a handful of people know that. And you don't have the problems of people coming forward like they're doing now saying they wouldn't give me the right ballot, or my ballot they gave me didn't have Trump's name on it. All these other different fraudulent concerns that we see and that are coming forward, people are reporting. But keep your eye on the prize, and that's the cyber warfare.
My guest is Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney. He's retired Air Force Lieutenant General and served, as I mentioned, in top military positions under both Republican and Democrat presidents. General, I think you told Steve Bannon that the programs we're talking about, Hammer and Scorecard, changed up to 3% of the vote.
Correct.
That's
in other words, they don't want to. They want to do it subtly. They don't want to have 10 or 20% that would be way out of line, and they've got to do it in real time. Remember, so they're reading how many votes come in for each, and then they're computing how they have to change those numbers that come through.
Okay, General, we're going to take another break, General. When we come back, I want to ask you about Dennis Montgomery. He is the man who developed these programs, Hammer and Scorecard. And as you pointed out, as I mentioned, he's been completely trashed in the article by the Daily Beast. But I want to ask you about him. Is he still around? Where is he? Is he speaking? My guest, again, Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney, long distinguished record, and is making a allegation that even the Trump administration, at least so far, has not yet made. More when we come back with the General. My last few minutes with my guest, Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney, who, by the way, wrote a book called Endgame, The Blueprint for Victory in the War on Terror, written in 2004, describes a super-secret weapon that is intended to neutralize nuclear weapons. General Thomas McInerney. Can you tell us about Dennis Montgomery, who he is?
Dennis is a CIA contractor. In other words, he had his own company, but under contract with CIA when he developed this program in 2003 to go after terrorists. He became a whistleblower once it was moved out of the CIA, and he saw what they were doing, who they were listening to, U.S. citizens, Supreme Court justices, etc. And he became a whistleblower, and he turned over a whole host of tapes as a whistleblower to the FBI and the Department of Justice. So in that, the FBI General Counsel at that time was James Baker, who is now the Twitter General Counsel. Surprise. James Baker. But he turned them over to them and to the U.S. Attorney, Assistant U.S. Attorney Deborah Curtis in August, in 2015, December. So he is, I can't tell you where he's located now, and that's not important. He's brilliant. He is a great American patriot.
Do you know whether, General, do you know whether he's speaking to the Trump administration?
I can't talk about that.
Are you speaking to the Trump administration?
I can't talk about that, Larry.
General, in your opinion, did Joe Biden win this election fair and square?
No.
Is there enough information, do you think, that will be exposed eventually and in time enough to overturn the election and to award the election to President Trump?
Yes.
You're anticipating, I take it, major bombshells coming up pretty soon?
Yes.
Well, General, thank you very much for coming on. Thank you for your service to our country, and thank you so much for taking the time. We really do appreciate it. God bless.
Thank you, Larry. God bless you.
Wow. 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 Wow.